OK、はい。今日は、元気1のチャプター10を勉強します。Um, まず、comparison between two things. And then, comparison among three or more things. And then, adjective or noun not to mean pronoun one. つもりだ to mean I'm planning to. Adjective なる. Well, we're gonna dig deeper in this round point. Gonna talk more, not only about this, but basically how to change adjective to adverb is what we're gonna talk about. And then we did learn this one, どこにも. It's just extra information from what we learned last chapter, I think. And then the second function of the particle dip. So this is all we're going to cover in this chapter. Okay, let's start. So first one, comparison between two things. Well, let me write a chart. I'm going to cover comparison between two things and also comparison among three or more things. I'm gonna cover all of these at once. I think that's better. And I'm gonna, as usual, compare with English so that, especially for English speakers, you get to understand better, I think, when you compare with your own language. Okay. So I guess we can just do normal adjective just to compare, okay? In Japanese. Okay, so normal adjective. Well, what I mean by this is, for example, the word good is what we use normally when we want to use the adjective good to compare between two things. Then English, what we do is A is better than B. Yeah. So we change good to better, right? And when it comes to comparing among three or more things, right? A is the best, for example, among category, something, okay? This one, when we're comparing three or more things, good is changed to the best. Of course, like in English, depending on the adjectives, we change, for example, the special ones are bad, bad becomes worse, comparing two things, and then it becomes the worst when we compare among three or more things. But then the typical rule when it comes to English adjectives is big becomes bigger, so ER usually. And then when comparing among three or more things, biggest, the biggest. So EST, EST, and ER for this one. These are the typical rules, right? How do we do this in Japanese? Well, good thing. Good news is that we don't need to change the adjectives. Just like in English, we did need to change good to better, and the best, bad, worse, the worst, big, bigger, the biggest. But at least, for example, E will stay E here, and then it will also stay as E here. Worry is bad, worry will stay as is. And then big is OK. OK will also stay as is. So in that sense, at least for this grammar point, it is a lot simpler in Japanese, right? This then will make you think that, okay, if the adjectives won't change, everything else have to be different so that we can compare among three or more things, or comparing between two things, right? So this is what we're going to cover. How do we change so that we can compare among two or more things? Okay, I'm going to start with conclusion, how we do it. A, whatever A that's superior that you're comparing, の方が B より B is something that's inferior to A, and then whatever adjective here. For example, マクドナルド、マクドナルド、McDonald's の方が let's do バーガーキング、バーガーキングより美味しい。For example, 美味しいです to be polite. By putting the noun with no hoga, this means you're thinking McDonald's is better. And then by putting yori, whatever noun that you connect with yori is inferior. So in that sense, yori is translated as than. Something is more delicious than B. Okay? And then oishi desu. Yeah. Let's dig deeper in this grammar point. Blank. No hoga blank. Yori. Noun or adjective here. This is just optional if you want to make it polite. Okay. Okay. So why does the noun that we cover with nohoga be superior? Sorry, my cat is trying to fight with the other cat. Mojo, Mojo, Mojo. Okay. This is my cat Mojo. It's really cute. Okay, Mojo. All right. Okay. And then why does whatever noun that's connected to yori would mean inferior to the other noun, right? Let's understand this first. First of all, we have to understand what ho means. There's no is the particle no connecting two or more nouns into one noun, right? So whatever that's superior, it's a noun, combine with this noun, ho. Ho in kanji, it's this, ho. This means direction. Direction. So literal meaning of, for example, McDonald's no ho, right? Let's put McDonald's again here. Would mean the direction of McDonald's. the particle got is. The direction of McDonald's is. And then this one, like I said earlier, Yori does have good translation in English, and that is than when comparing. Just like how the word than entails in English too, than is used for something that is inferior to the other, right? So I guess it's just simple if you just memorize Yori as than. Whatever you connect Yori with, it would mean something that's lower or worse or inferior to the other one that you're comparing with. And then whatever adjective or noun, right? So for example, let's use the adjective oishi. Literal meaning of this sentence that we just covered, マクドナルドの方がバーガーキングより美味しいです。Okay? Literal meaning will be, let me clear things up a little bit. My handwriting has always been bad, so please bear with me. My justification for that is by you getting used to my handwriting, you get to read other people's handwriting. So I know it's just an excuse, but with this, literal meaning will be the direction of McDonald's is delicious than Burger King. Is delicious than Burger King. Okay, which would mean McDonald's is more delicious than Burger King. All right. So this one, yeah, it does mean just direction, right? But it is really a convenient word, whole is, because we don't necessarily have to always have noun to compare. For example, if you want to say something like, watching is more fun than playing. For example, like you're talking about baseball. Do you like watching baseball or do you like playing baseball, right? And then you can say like, I prefer watching to playing. So this kind of stuff, right? In this case, we are putting verbs. Watching is more fun than playing here, right? How do we connect a verb in this case? So if you understand, again, the important thing is knowing the meaning of whole here. Like I said, whole is a noun, right? We only put the particle no because whatever we are comparing with here was a noun. Earlier it was McDonald's. Because McDonald's is a noun and then whole is a noun, we put no here. But then now that we want to put a verb here, naturally, we wouldn't need no, right? Because it's not a noun. We're gonna learn, I mean, last chapter, right? We learned noun qualifying sentence, which is really important grammar point. Doesn't hurt to always review. Noun qualifying sentence, I think, well, very simply, important thing is how to connect a noun with a sentence that describes about a noun. Like noun that like I know a person who went to Japan last year. I like restaurants where you can eat all you want. I remember the time when I used to be bad at speaking English or whatever, right? So noun that or where, who, when, whatever that's appropriate that's connected to the noun, and then subsentence that describes the noun, right? Important thing that we needed to remember was whatever subsentence that we are connecting to a noun, right? Make sure the ending of the subsentence, meaning the last word in the subsentence, is plain or dictionary form. With that, we can directly connect to the noun. The only exception was if the last word of the subsentence was present, positive, noun, or non-adjective. In this case, it differs. If it's a noun at the end, then since it's, again, noun and noun, we add no. If the ending was non-adjective, present, positive, then, like we know how we connect non-adjective to a noun, 綺麗な車, right? Beautiful car. 綺麗な車. So we do add na. So this is the only exception. If the ending was present positive noun or non-adjective, then we do have to add no or na. But everything else, as long as the last word of the subsentence is plain or dictionary form, we can directly connect. So with that, let's do this. Watching is more fun than playing. Watching. The verb of to watch is miru, right? And then miru is a verb. It's not a noun, so we don't need a particle, no? Miru, this is already a dictionary form. It's not mimasu, right? This is not dictionary form. It's long form, a polite form, right? Miru is already a dictionary form or plain. So with that, we can just directly connect to the noun ho using the noun qualifying sentence. So with that, miru ho, right? Again, sorry, my handwriting or my writing just gets messier and messier. Okay, ho. する、見る方, literal meaning would be the direction where I look, or direction that I look. It's a literal meaning. Yori. This one is, we do only connect yori with a noun. That's why we were able to earlier say Burger King yori, right? So by knowing this, that we have to have it as a noun, how do we still put playing here? Well, maybe you have figured out by changing the verb play into a noun, playing as a noun, right? How do we do this? You remember? It was, let me delete this here. Whatever verb, again, playing, dictionary form, and then no. That would be whatever verb ing form as a noun. Like I like playing baseball. Studying is important. In those cases, those noun verbs with ing have become nouns, right? So with that, playing. In this case, for example, playing baseball, 野球をする. We use the verb する to do baseball, right? So just するの will be doing as a noun. So it might be better to put 野球 at the beginning here. It's just so messy. 野球。野球を見る方がするの, right? By putting no, it has now become a noun. するのより instead of おいしい。楽しい。楽しいです。楽しい means fun. Again, the adjective here or noun here, we don't need to change at all, which is a good thing. We don't need to conjugate, just as is, we put it. Okay. I hope that made sense. Um, some of you might wonder, we have been seeing this noun, noun here. Can you give an example of giving a noun to compare? For example, we can say something like, hey, you're more Japanese than this guy, right? You can say something like, Takeshi. Takeshi is more Japanese than Takashi, for example. Takeshi. Again, this one is noun. Ho is a noun. What do we do? Not to connect. Takeshi no ho ga, we compare him with Takashi. Takashi. This one always has to be noun. It's already noun, so we don't need to do anything. Takashi yori. And then Japanese. Nihonjin desu. This would mean Takeshi is more Japanese than Takashi. Make sense? Okay. So this is how we simply get to use this ground point when we want to compare two things. One convenient things to know. Convenient thing to know is, like we have talked about many times, Japanese is really flexible in that word order doesn't matter as much as long as we keep usually two rules that one main verb is at the end of a sentence. Two, each noun comes together with an appropriate particle. Then we can shuffle whatever noun, particle comes with it, whatever noun, particle comes with it, and the ending is whatever verb or adjective or whatever, right? Okay, so as long as we keep correct particle for each noun and then verb or adjective, noun at the end, then we can shuffle whatever way we want, right? Same thing applies. Same thing here. Well, Takeshi is already connected to ho as one noun. And then ga is the particle, right? It's connected with this. And then Takashi yori is the particle that's connected to Takashi. And then whatever noun adjective at the end. So here it stays, right? We can't shuffle here. But we can at least shuffle here and start with something that's inferior. And we can say, Takashi yori, Takeshi no hou ga Nihonjin desu. That's fine too, right? Using the shuffle, word shuffling rule. So what's important here is really remember that whatever that you're connecting, let me put just no with parenthesis, right? Because if we put a verb, we don't need no, right? And whatever we connect with yori, right? Just remember that whatever that's connected with hoga is superior with whatever that we use in the compare. And whatever that's connected with yori is inferior. This is important. As long as we remember this, then shuffling word order wouldn't matter, right? You can still understand. Hi. So that's the important thing. Okay. Now that we have covered the first one, comparing two things, let's compare among three or more things. Okay. So again, in English, when we have to change the adjective these ways, Again, in Japanese, we don't need to, right? The adjective or noun, whatever we compare him with, can stay as is, which is great. Let me write the conclusion first. We can, for example, let's say if you want to say like among A, B, and C, A is the best. Yes, that's one way of saying it. Or we can say something like among all the Pokemon, I like Snorlax the best, right? So with that, we can, there's a way to compare three or more things. In that case, A と B と C の中で this means 中. A と B と C. Yeah, sorry. Earlier, I stabbed my eye with a stick accidentally, and I can't see well with my left eye, so that's why I've been touching a lot. Anyways, A と B と C の中で whatever. For example, A が一番 oops 一番 whatever noun or adjective we are comparing with this if you want to make it polite. Okay, this is when we are like literally listing all the stuff that we are comparing with. Among McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, I like McDonald's the best, for example, right? What about earlier when I said among all the Pokemon, I like Pikachu the most or whatever, right? Category. If you want to list a category, you just put it here. For example, ポケモンの中で among Pokemons. A が一番 whatever. ピカチュウが一番可愛いです would be Pikachu is the cutest. Okay. With this, let's cover the origin of this grammar point so that we can literally understand, linguistically understand, so that it will hopefully help you memorize easier. Okay. First of all, naka. You can tell that this is a noun because it follows a particle here, and then also there's no here to combine with other nouns here or here category, right? So naka is a noun. We have learned this vocab. It means inside, right? This particle that, which function is it? We're going to learn this actually, this chapter, officially. But the particle that has two main functions. The first one is place of action, event, activity. Like I study at home. Home is where I study. What I have explained is this one takes two actions to complete. Meaning, for example, I sleep at home. For you to sleep at home, what's the first action? First action is for you to be at home first. Doesn't necessarily mean you always at home or you're already at home. That doesn't count. Even if you're already at home, you existing at home, that's the first action, right? And then second action is, in this case, sleep. So two actions it takes. That means it's place of action. We do something at the place or event. For example, hey, there's a concert at my school. 学校でコンサートがあります。Activity, for example, like, oh, I have an exam at my house. My house is where the event of or activity of exam is happening. So again, two actions, right? This is when we put that after the place. Now, lots of people get confused between the particle ni and the particle de, right? Ni is destination. De, again, is place of action. Um, it gets confusing because both are about place. Destination is about place, right? I'm biking home as opposed to I'm gonna eat at home. I'm biking home. How many actions does it take for you to bike home? Bike home. You reach home, that's it. Completion, right? So how many action when we use the destination ni? One action. I walk home, I bike home, I drive home, I run home, I whatever home, right? One action. Ni. Just the destination. Two actions. I sleep at home, I study at home, I watch TV at home, these stuff. Second action has to happen at the place. That's that. So again, ask yourself, how many actions does it take? Whenever you get confused as to which particle to put after a place, ni or de. Ask this simple question, how many actions? If it's one action, then it's probably just destinations on ni. Two actions, then you're probably doing something at the place. So that, right? Okay. That was just a quick review. Okay. But this one is just review. The important thing is the second function. It's by means of. This one might be a little bit confusing to understand, but basically, easier way is just use and translate it as using. Let me explain. 私はテレビで映画を見ます。I watch movies by means of TV, meaning I watch movies on TV, right? Or, maybe easier translation at first is I watch movies using TV. Natural translation will be on TV, right? Or if I say 私はアイスクリームを箸 or usually we put the polite prefix or to chopsticks or hashi で食べます。Let me make the pen thinner. Okay. Hi, this one. I eat ice cream by means of or using chopsticks, meaning I eat ice cream with chopsticks, which I do. I do eat. I eat anything with chopsticks, and my friends laugh about it, but it's just so convenient. Chopsticks are so good. You can stab, you can cut, you can eat soup with anything. So in this case, we translated this de as with, which is different from how we translated this de with or on, right? So situation, context, this is one big reason why I don't recommend anyone to just memorize particle direct, like literal translation. We don't, for most of the particles, we don't have literal translation in English, but some people do. For example, like particle ni, to, or at in terms of time. Particle de, at, to do something at somewhere. Or in this case, so far we have had on, with. Don't do this. Don't memorize this way. Like to can be and, or it can also mean with. You can already tell why this is going to be bad. It's a bad way to memorize. Why? We have overlapping same words at here, right? And there's more, right? Don't do this. Instead of just memorizing the literal translation version in English, memorize the concepts, meaning the functions of each particle. Have that in your mind, and then figure out the best way to translate in English. Appropriate translation, not literal translation. Okay. Another one. 私はたけしと日本語で話します。Translation. I talk with Takeshi by means of Japanese or using Japanese. What would be the best, maybe natural translation? I speak with Takeshi in Japanese. Right? So this one too. The appropriate translation there is translated as in. Okay. Okay. So far, does it make sense? I'll just add one more example. 私はバスで学校に行きます。Sorry, my handwriting is just bad. 行きます。私はバスで学校に行きます。Okay, translation. I go to school. I go to school by means of bus, using bus. Natural translation. I go to school by bus. Okay, with this, let's look at all of these. 4 sentences using the second function of the particle de, not the place of action, but by means of or using. 4 ways to use this. Let's change some color. Okay. First one, I watch movies on TV. Second one, I eat ice cream with chopsticks. Third one, I speak with Takeshi in Japanese. Last one, I go to school by bus. So you can tell that just the second function of the particle that can be, in natural translation, translated as on, with, in, by, right? There's too many. So that's why I don't recommend you to just memorize it this way. What do I recommend? Just like how we did it here, right? Usually whenever we see particle de, more often this function, place of action, is used. I would say maybe like 60 to 80%. Let's for now put 70%. 70% of the times we use this particle, right? So my recommendation is start with this translation, place of action. And when you translate that way, it doesn't make sense, then you'll be like, oh, okay, so this doesn't make sense. Okay, maybe the second function is what's being used. Just use using to translate at first, right? After that, at the end, final product is when you do the natural translation. Here, I watch movies using TV. Natural translation will be, I watch movies on TV. This one, I eat ice cream using chopsticks. Natural translation. I eat ice cream with chopsticks. Same way. Okay, that's my recommendation. And this is the last grammar point that we're covering. So we actually just covered now. Okay, so this one is being used back to the second grammar point that we're covering right now. Right, this one. Let's again translate. This there is not this first function, place of action. The second function, using. So with that, let's follow the suggestions I made. Let's just for now use the word using to translate that and then see how it goes, and then we naturally translate later. So far, here. Okay. Using inside of A and B and C. Using inside of A and B and C. A is 一番. Guess for now, let's just translate it as the most. A is the most, whatever. What would be the natural translation? Will be more natural sounding in English. Using inside A and B and C. A is the most blank. We can translate using inside as among, maybe. Among A and B and C. A is the most blank, right? マクドナルドとバーガーキングとタコベルの中で、マクドナルドが一番美味しいです。Among McDonald's, Burger King, and Taco Bell, McDonald's is the most delicious. Good. Now, when we use a category, for example, we use Pokemon as the category, right? Translation will be using inside Pokemon. Pikachu is the most, for example, kawaii will be the cutest. That's the literal translation. Let's do a natural translation. Maybe for this one too, we can just use among. Among Pokemon, Pikachu is the cutest. Well, Snorlax is the cutest. I like Snorlax. Hi, that's the literal or the origin of this grammar point. Hope that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense or if that's too confusing, it is okay just to memorize, just whatever you're comparing with. の中で and then A が一番 blank. Of course, we don't need to always have this, right? It's optional. Only when you want to specify what you're comparing among, right? For example, you can just say, Pikachu が一番可愛いです. Pikachu is the cutest. That's totally fine too. Again, this is only if you want to specify what you're comparing among. Okay? はい。One point that you want to be careful about clean up a little bit is this one. Like I did earlier, I translated ichiban as the most in this context. But as you might already know, ichiban, the word ichiban is pretty popular internationally. I see many Japanese restaurants or even some tattoo shops have ichiban and stuff in their names. Literal meaning of ichiban. Ichi, as you know, is one. Ban means number. So literal meaning of ichiban is number one, which could mean the best already, right? Or it just could literally mean number one. This is where the confusion comes, especially among English speakers, because, for example, if you want to say Pikachu, Pikachu is the best, right? If you're using this translation of Ichiban, you can just simply say Pikachu. Pikachu が一番です. And that would mean Pikachu is the best. But the best can be this, like we covered. Best comes from the adjective good, right? Good becomes better when we compare among two things. And good becomes the best when we compare among three or more things, right? So that's the confusion. This grammar point, we do need an adjective or noun which we're using to compare with, right? But because ichiban could already mean the best, English speakers will be like, okay, well, ichiban already means the best, so I don't need to put anything here. And say, ポケモンの中でピカチュウが一番です. Which does mean Pikachu is the best among Pokemon. But if you want to say, I guess if you want to mean the most good, right? Of course, this is not, grammatical in English. I mean, but we do need to put the adjective "い" here. 一番いいです means the best, meaning the most good. So just want to let you know, I guess there's confusion with the word best in English. Best can mean the most good. In that case, we translate it as 一番 E. We do have to put this adjective, the most good or the best, could mean number one. Simply, it's the best, number one. In that case, if you just want to say number one, just 一番 is fine, right? Does that make sense? This confusion? So I guess my recommendation is whenever you want to use the word best when you're trying to translate from English to Japanese, ask yourself what kind of best you're trying to use. You're trying to say the most good, then in that case, we do need the adjective. So let's put 一番 E. If you just want to say, hey, this is number one, then just 一番 is fine. That's just a literal translation of number one. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, it's okay. By practicing, by reading some books, or writing diary or whatever, you'll get used to it. Take some practice, take some time for those to settle in. Okay, so this is the ground point of comparing with two things, three or more. But we haven't covered question. How to ask question about these stuff. Meaning, for example, if in English we can say like, hey, which is better? A or B, right? Or question among here is, for example, what is the most delicious food, right? So how do we ask these kind of questions where we're asking which one is better among the two, or we're asking which one is better among three or more things? Let's cover this, and these two ground points will be done. I did stab my eye pretty bad, I think, because still, when I see with my left eyes, things are blurry. Okay, how to ask question, which is better, what A or B? A と B とどっち in a casual setting, or どちら in a polite setting の方が whatever noun or adjective you're comparing with ですか as a question. Okay, this is how we ask. I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory. You can understand, but let's do literal translation of this sentence. It would be A and B. どっち or どちら means which one. Okay, which one? I mean, the direction of which one is whatever adjective or noun. For example, let's do 美味しい。マクドナルドとバーガーキングと I guess I like this example sentence. Okay. With the example words, the literal translation will be McDonald's and Burger King. Yeah, make sure to have this taught, right? To equally list these two options. McDonald's and Burger King. Direction of which one is delicious? Which is better? Which is more delicious? McDonald's or Burger King? Okay. This どっち or どちら, just to quickly explain, it's variation of the kosoado words. Ko for something that's closest to you, distance-wise, so a little bit farther away from ko, and then everywhere everywhere else other than ko area and so area. So basically far away place is ah. And then the question one is do. This is what you want to have in your head, right? In terms of understanding the kosoado with this. Also, we can combine with some words to mean other stuff. We did do ko, memorize it as place, so that's why ko, again, the closest ko, and then so, right? Koko means here, soko means there. Soko, this one is special. We have to add so. Soko means over there. And then doko means where, the question version. Do is question version, right? So just like this that we have learned, like chapter 3 or 4, I think, we do have variation where we can combine with small chi or chira. Again, this is the casual version. And this is the polite version. Translate this as way. So with that, combining with the closest, kochi, kochira, this way, sochi, sochira, that way, achi, achira, that way over there. And then question version, dochi, dochi, oops, dochira, which way? It's a literal translation, right? This is what we are using when we want to ask questions. Hey, which one is better, A or B? With that, I think this will make sense more. A と B とどっちの方が which one? A or B is more 美味しいですか more delicious or whatever. Okay? Um, this is what's on the textbook, but this is pretty formal. Like in casual speech, we don't say exactly this way, especially here at the beginning, listing the options A and B, right? Casual setting, we usually use the ka. A ka B, this ka is the question ka, but in this context, it would mean or. A or B, A か B どっちの方が美味しいマクドナルドとマクドナルドかバーガーキングどっちの方が美味しい which is more delicious. So this is used more often in casual setting. Okay. In response to this kind of question, of course, we can just use this to answer, right? マクドナルドの方がバーガーキングより美味しいです。But if you want to say like neither, I like neither, or I like both, right? In that case, we use A も B も whatever noun that we are comparing with or adjective that we're comparing with. For example, マクドナルドもバーガーキングも美味しいです。Both McDonald's and Burger King are delicious. There's more, there's also more, right? If you're on the other hand, if you want to say neither, well, same thing. A も B も example. If you want to say both McDonald's and Burger King are not good, not delicious. Just conjugate 美味しい to negative here. 美味しくないです。マクドナルドもバーガーキングも美味しくないです。Both are not good. Um, if you want to say, like, if someone asks you, which one do you like, Burger King or McDonald's? And you want to say, if you just specifically want to say, I neither like, no, dislike McDonald's or Burger King. In this case, kind of similar to what I have shared. 好きでも嫌いでもありません。ないです。This demo, this comes from Teflon plus more equals even if can be omitted. So connect them with negative. So literal meaning will be something like, it's not that I even like or I even don't like. Meaning neither like nor dislike. That's one way to say it. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to questions for this one. 3 or more things. How do we ask a question? What is the most delicious food? I think this is fairly simple. Um, whatever depends on what you're comparing with. Based on that, you decide like among one of these question words, right? Nani is what, itsu is when, doko, where, dare is who, ga, ichiban, whatever noun or adjective that you're comparing with. Desu ka is how you ask question for 3 or more things. Okay. So for example, if you want to ask like, hey, among Pokemon, which one do you like the most? Of course, we can use that among Pokemon thing here. Pokemon no naka de. In that case, when we are asking about which Pokemon do you like the best, which question word would be most appropriate? Well, you're asking about which Pokemon, right? So who, which character, right? So who would be most appropriate, right? So ポケモンの中で誰が一番, for example, 好きですか? Do you like? If you want to say, hey, um, there is some discrepancy between English and Japanese as to like how we ask questions. But for example, like one of the examples of that is which season do you like the most? In English, we use this question word, which season? Okay. But in Japanese, well, season, 季節, it's about, season is about time. right? So we use いつ when is the most appropriate question word to use for asking this. So for example, having season as the category, 季節, 季節の中で, right? Among all the seasons. And then use the appropriate question word, in this case, いつ, when. When いつが一番, if you want to say, do you like 好きですか? Or like, when is the most beautiful? 一番綺麗ですか? You change here based on what you want to ask, right? So that's one example, right? But I think if you really think about what's most appropriate, you can come up with the best one. Like, where do you want to live? Or among all the places that you have been to, where do you like the most? In that case, of course, we're going to be using the question word where. Or like, among all the friends that you have, who do you like the most? Of course, that would be using dare, right? Or like, among all the things that you have, what is the most expensive? In that case, what? Nani, right? So depending on question, what kind of question you want to ask, just choose the right question word and you're good. Hi. Sorry it took a while. Okay. So this is the first two grammar points. We covered these two, and we did also cover this. Okay, let's cover the other stuff. I think let's cover the easy ones first, okay? This one is easy because we already covered most of it in past chapters, so let's cover this mostly as a review. Sing words. For example, どこ is where, 誰 is who, いつ is when, どれ which one. Okay, I guess we can also have 何 what. Okay, we have learned in the past chapters that if we add か to these question words, it's going to add the meaning of some blank. どこか would be somewhere. I want to go somewhere. 誰か some, this one's asking about person, so someone. I met someone the other day. いつか some, and this when is about time, so sometime. Hey, let's hang out sometime. いつか、いつか、つるも、いつか遊ぼう。どれか which one? This one is a little bit tricky. Something with the context of there's only two options. Why? Because we have here 何か. 何か is the official something. Just something. If you remember, dore is which one, right? With the context of when there's two options, we use which one, dore, typically. So that's why doreka would mean something, but when there's only two options usually. And then next one that we covered is if we add more and end it with a negative conjugation, then this would mean not any something or no something. But well, I guess I can explain later. But どこも something negative, right? Not anywhere or nowhere. I didn't go anywhere or I went nowhere. I did explain that I don't recommend you memorizing this no version. Why? Because like I said here, for us to say I didn't go anywhere. Well, I didn't go anywhere can be paraphrased in English by saying I went nowhere, right? If you memorize it as no, know something, then it is possible that you try to do literal translation and be like, okay, どこも means nowhere. So I just have to say went. So it will be どこも行きました. This is the common mistake that people make because they memorize どこも as nowhere here. As you can see, when we compare these two sentences in English, by using the word nowhere, this one already has the negative function in the word. So we don't need to conjugate the verb to negative. That's why it's positive. I went nowhere, right? But this grammar point in Japanese, we do have to always conjugate to negative. So what happens when people memorize as nowhere is they just do little translation and forget to negate the conjugation. That's why people will say どこも行きました instead of when the correct way of saying is 行きませんでした. I didn't go anywhere, right? So that's why I do recommend people to memorize this more plus negative as not any. This way, you do remind yourself every time that, oh, okay, there's not, so I do have to conjugate in a negative way. So with that, you will translate from here. Okay, anywhere is どこも and then didn't, so negative. 行きませんでした. This way, you won't forget, usually, to negate. With that, どこも, not anywhere, 誰も, whatever, negative, not anyone. Like, I didn't see anyone today. いつも is special because いつも, we already have the word いつも, which means always. This one can be used both in a positive way or negative way. いつも勉強します. I always study. いつも勉強しません. I always don't study. Right? So this is a little bit special. You don't need to worry about this. どれも not anything. I didn't choose any of those two options. 何も not anything. I didn't do anything today. 何もしませんでした. Right? I did also. It's not on the Genki textbook, but another really useful combination to have is demo plus positive conjugation. And this would mean any something in a positive meaning. This any here was negative any, but this is the positive version. Let me explain. For example, どこでも for example, 行きます. I will go anywhere. I'll go anywhere with you. 誰でもいいです. Anyone is fine. Who do you want to marry? Anyone is fine. いつでもいいです, for example. We do tend to use the いいです uh, to say like, hey, whenever is fine, anytime is fine. Just come visit me anytime. どれでもいいです。どれでも。Anything is fine. Just choose one of them. 何でもいいです。Anything. What do you want to do? 何でもいい。Anything is fine. Which I say all the time, and my friends get frustrated because I don't give any specific ideas. Okay, so this was just a review, right? The new grammar points, not really new, but from this chapter, right? It's talking about double particle. For example, if you want to say using this one, more with negative. I didn't go anywhere. Simple translation. Anywhere is どこも, right? どこも, and then didn't go. 行きませんでした。どこも行きませんでした。It's fine. But if we want to put another particle, well, here we are already using the particle more in this case, right? But if we want to use another particle, which particle can we use in this case? I didn't go anywhere. Go anywhere. This is the destination, right? For destination, just one action, right? So we use the particle ni for destination, right? So if we want, we can add ni to the word anywhere, which is here, right? Now the question is, where are we going to put ni? It is, after noun, and in this case, doko is a noun. So could sound easy, but then we already have this particle. So the question is, are we going to put before ni, or are we going to put after, sorry, are we going to put before mo or after mo? This is the question. What do you think? Hint is if you remember how we use the particle mo, that means like to or also. Then this is easy. So let's quickly review this. I do take, long enough time to really explain thoroughly grammar points. So, you might want to just speed up the video so that it's not too long, but it is important to really fully understand so that you can move on. To quickly review the particle mo. Of course, since it means also or to, we use the particle mo in a context where we are comparing two sentences, contrasting two sentences, meaning I am Japanese, this is same info. And then there's contrasting info. I am Japanese and Takeshi is also Japanese. So with that, contrasting info and same info, we can always figure out whenever we use the particle more, right? The important thing to know for the particle more is we use the more after the contrasting info. Meaning, in this case, here is the contrasting info. It's not I. Takashi or Takeshi in this case. So here is where we put mo instead of common mistake people, put after the same info, but no. Always remember that after the contrasting info is where we put mo. Okay. But then here, when we put mo, we have to look into what mo is capable of. Mo is really flexible in that mo replaces the main particles, meaning wa, ga, o. These three main particles. Mo can replace. Mo can act as these particles. Why are these main particles? Because both wa and ga are about indicating subject of the sentence, or is about indicating object of the sentence. Usually in languages, subject and object are really part of the main stuff, right? So that's why if you memorize that way, it might be easy. Okay. So it's just that more is so capable that more can act as wa or ga, indicating subject of the sentence and then object of the sentence. So that's why we don't need to say here, for example, here I am Japanese. 私は日本人です。We don't need to say たけしはも日本人です。Actually, this will be grammatically wrong. Okay, so we have to take off the mo because mo in this case is already acting as wa. Okay, now let's talk about all the other particles. Other particles like ni, de, e. What else do we have? No. I guess for now here, just these four are fine. Okay. What about these other particles where more doesn't have the function or the ability to replace or cover for them, right? What that means is we do need these particles because more cannot replace. What do? More is added. Make sure you know, this is the important thing. More is added after. More is always the last one, the second particle. Okay? What I mean is, for example, I study at home. I also study at school. In this case, what's the same info? I study. What's the contrasting info? Home and school. And where do we put more? After the contrasting info, right? But then here, when we try to translate into Japanese, right? I study at home. 私は家で勉強します。We use the particle で, right? Place of action. This one too, we do need the particle で place of action at school, right? And then, like we just covered here, more doesn't have the ability to cover, replace that. More is just added. So we just add after that. So you can say, 私は school, 学校。学校でも勉強します。Sorry, my handwriting is I'm just getting lazy. Okay. Here, Mo is always the second particle. Okay, I hope you remember this. This is just a review, right? I mean, it was a while ago, so it's totally natural if you forgot. Okay, same thing here. This mo, same thing, can replace the main particles, which are wa, ga, o. But all the other particles, ni, de, no, those stuff, mo is added. Again, mo has to be the last one. So with this, using these, right? For example, if you want to say, well, let's go back to here. I didn't go anywhere. We did earlier say that. We can translate it as どこも行きませんでした. And that's fine. It's fine, but if we have to put, if we want to put, didn't go anywhere, this is the destination, right? So destination particle is ni. Ni. Where do we put before or after mo? Again, mo has to be always the second particle. So ni has to be here. どこにも行きませんでした. That makes sense? Let's try some other ones. えーっと、um, what else can we say? For example, let's use this one. Not anyone. Say, I didn't talk with anyone. How do you say this? Not anyone is 誰も negative, right? So 私は誰も and then didn't talk. 話しませんでした。話しませんでした。Right? If we want to put a double particle to add the meaning of with anyone, what's the particle to use to mean with? Like together with. It's to, right? 私は For example, 私はたけしと話しました。I talked with たけし. So here, we have to add to. Now, where do we put? Again, before も, right? So with that, 私は誰とも話しませんでした。I didn't talk with anyone. And this is the ground point for this chapter. So again, it's not really new thing. Okay? Here's what we covered. どこにも. Make sure the second particle is before も. Right? This one though, the confusing thing here is if we want to put second particle to this one, right? Well, it's not mo, right? Mo always has to be at the end, but that's this variation. If we want to use second particle here, what do we do? I mean, I think you already saw it, but どこかに so ka has to be first and then double particle here. If you want to say, I went somewhere, どこかに行きました. Again, these double particles are optional. It's okay to say どこか行きました. I went somewhere. どこも行きませんでした. I didn't go anywhere. Or we can add ni. Just make sure when we add ni, if you're using the ka variation, ni, the double particle is at the end. If you're using the mo is always at the end, so before mo. So make sure to remember that. Mm, uh, it is tricky, right? It's not the same. So um, but I guess more should be this one should be easy because we already learned in the past chapters about double particle with more, and it's the exactly same rule. So that's why this one is not really new grammar point. Maybe if anything, this one is slightly new thing, new information. Just remember that it's just after ka, then you're good. Right. It's taking a lot longer than I expected. Okay. Let's do three more, huh? Let's do uh another fairly easy one. つもりだ. Okay? Okay. This I'm gonna start with conclusion. Whatever stuff you want to say. Just ending. Just make it plain. つもり. I'm つもりです and this would mean I'm planning to. Planning to do something. Okay? For example, well, let's use this ground point first so that you have it in your mind, and then I'll explain the origin of this ground point. Okay, if you want to say I'm planning to play game, play video games. Okay, how do you say I play video games? 私はゲームをします。Right? And then つもりです at the end to add the meaning of I'm planning to. But then remember, what do we do to connect? The ending has to be plain. So what's the plain version of します?する。私はゲームをするつもりです。I'm planning to play a game. What about not planning to play a game? Same thing. How do you say I won't play game or I don't play game? 私はゲームをしません. And again, put the つもりです at the end to give the meaning of I'm planning to. And then how to connect the つもり? Plain. What's the plain of しません? Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. Just make it plain. Simple. しない is the negative. I mean the plain version of the しません. And that's it. 私はゲームをしないつもりです. I'm not planning to play games. So this one, maybe, as you can see, it's easy because the ending doesn't change, right? つもりです at the end doesn't change. It's easy as long as you know how to make the ending of this, whatever you're planning to do, plain, casual form. Again, it comes down to casual form. If you know that or not, that will change. Okay. That's the grammar point basically. I'm planning to do something. I'm not planning to do something. Whatever it is, make it plain. That's it. Very simple. Now let's cover the origin of this grammar point. Okay. Hi. You might have guessed already because this way of, using the grammar point, whatever it is, we make it plain. Whenever we make it plain, it's safe to assume that's used in the noun qualifying sentence. This is why I always tell that noun qualifying sentence is really important, which means つもり is a noun. Okay? So for example, ゲームをするつもりです. In this case, つもり as a noun means plan or estimate. Okay? So literal meaning will be it's the plan that I play game. It's the plan that I play game. Meaning I'm planning to play games. Okay? Why does this つもり mean plan? This one comes from the verb. The origin is the verb 積もる. You don't need to know this, but just letting you know the origin. 積もる. Something accumulates. For example, 雪, snow. 雪が積もった. Snow accumulated. Now, why does this verb accumulate would mean plan? Here, well, the image of this something accumulating, right? So if you have the image of you looking at something, and this is the gauge of, for example, let's say $0 to $100. You're looking, whatever you think, whatever a thing that you're looking at is being accumulated to certain price. 見て 積もる. You look at something being accumulated to settle down to a certain price. 見積もり. Estimate. Me comes from looking. Like again, you look at whatever you're trying to sell. The price being accumulated. Like, oh, okay, so this one, for example, you're selling a car, engine works fine, windshield is broken, okay, a little bit less, like that, right? So with that, this image, we have this word, mitsumori, estimate as a noun. So with that, the verb to accumulate can be used. I mean, it is historically used to try to see um, the true nature of something, usually like how much it costs, right? So with the action of trying to see the value of something or, whatever, right? Estimate, plan. Does that make sense? Does it connect well? The estimate is this. We can tell estimate because we get to see what will happen in the future. Like, okay, engine works, okay, this. Window doesn't work, this. We are estimating for the future, right? So with that, estimating, planning for the future, if that makes sense. So with that, it's the plan that I play game, means I'm planning to. Again, this is just an origin. Many people don't even know this origin. But by knowing this, right, By knowing this, you would also understand this word mitsumori as an estimate, and also by knowing tsumori as plan as a noun, you get to understand that since this is a noun, whatever sentence you want to connect, just make it plain to directly connect to noun. Why? Noun qualifying sentence that we learned last chapter, right? So with that, would make sense. But again, if that was too confusing, you can just simply memorize that whatever you want to do, just make sure the ending is plain, and then summarize this, and that'll be I'm planning to. Because you know that tsumori is a noun, the conjugation is tsumori desu here, right? And because you know that tsumori is a noun, if we want to negate this, tsumori, it will be tsumori janai desu because it's a noun, right? And with that, what would it mean? For example, sticking with the same sentence, ゲームをするつもりじゃないです. Literal meaning will be, it's not the plan that I play game. Meaning, I'm not playing the game. I'm not planning to play game. Which is basically same as negating here. So it's interchangeable. Either is fine. If you want to say, I'm not planning to do something, you can either negate this subsentence here or negate the main noun here. But of course, if you negate here, then this one has to say positive, right? And that's the ground point. I'm planning to do, I'm not planning to do. Whatever you're planning or not planning, make sure the ending is plain. And you're good. Okay. I think that was fairly simple compared to other ground points that we learned. Okay. Two more. Let's do adjective plus naru, because this is important, really important. The textbook doesn't teach you the important part of it. It really simplifies in a way that's annoying to me personally. So I'm gonna explain the full grammar point of this. This grammar point is about changing either noun or adjective to adverbs. Now, let's review what these words mean, okay? Adjective describes nouns, like beautiful car, 綺麗な車. Adverbs describes verbs. I mean, it has the verb in it, right? Should be easy to remember. Describes verbs. Now, what's the adverb version of beautiful? Beautifully. Beautifully. I beautifully drove. I beautifully slept. I beautifully wrote a letter. Whatever. In English, in this case, by adding ly, usually to an adjective. We can change it to adverb so that we can connect to a verb, right? Now we get to learn how to change nouns or adjectives to adverbs in Japanese. Let's cover that. Noun and adjective, like I have shared, is 99% same conjugation all the time. 1% there's some differences, but it's good to remember that almost all the time the rules are same among nouns and adjective. Why? Because adjective is hybrid of noun and adjective. With this, how do we change these to adverbs? Add ni. For example, 綺麗 is an adjective. 綺麗に, for example, slept, 寝ました. I slept beautifully. Now, you might be wondering, what's the adverb version of a noun? This one's a little bit different from English, but for example, 日本人 is a noun, Japanese. に depends on what we connect, what kind of verb we connect with. Usually with the noun adverb version, we connect with the verb なる to become. So what would this mean? 日本人になる. I become Japanese. Good. So yeah, noun version, usually we just use the become. He became a doctor. I want to be professional baseball player or whatever, right? Okay, so this is the noun and adjective version. Just add ni and that's it. And it becomes adverb. Okay. Next one, e adjective. What do we do to change to adverb? Take off e and add ku and it becomes adverb. For example, おいしい. Take off e and add ku. And this would mean deliciously. Deliciously. Common phrase that Japanese people say when someone gives you food. Like your friend cooks something and is like, hey, I want you I want you to try this. Usually after we try eating, when we meet up with the person again, we want to, of course, say good things about it. This is one of the phrases that we can say, 美味しく食べました. Literal meaning, I ate deliciously. And I know in English, we don't say this way, right? We just say like, hey, it was good. I ate it. It was good. But it basically means that. Hey, I ate it and it was good in one sentence. 美味しく食べました. I ate deliciously. Okay. Hey, so with this, summary will be, はい. Noun, adjective, add ni, e adjective, take off e and ku. And then now, after that, we can add, combine with any verbs. Good. This is the bigger picture that I want you to really hopefully memorize. Because we changed the adverbs, of course, we can combine with any verbs. Literally any verb is fine. Beautifully sleep, beautifully walk, beautifully write, beautifully think, whatever. Any verb is fine. The textbook, though, for this chapter, right? It only teaches you to combine with naru, to become. So I became a gamer. ゲーマーになりました. It became beautiful. My room became beautiful. 私の部屋がきれいになりました. My ramen became delicious. My ramen got delicious. You did something and it got delicious. ラーメンが美味しくなりました. Okay? Textbook just simplifies too much to the point it could mislead students, and it have been misleading. It has been misleading, so that's why I personally don't like this way of teaching in the textbook. Okay, so with this, and this is the ground point. like I said, we can combine with any verbs. There's one verb that, in particular, that looks like it gives a little bit of a different meaning. And that special verb is する, to do. I mean, imagine, like, for example, using the noun. 日本人にする。私は、たけしを日本人にしました。What do you think it means, right? I did Takeshi Japanese. I did Takeshi Japanese. 私はラーメンを美味しくしました。What would this mean? I did ramen deliciously. What would that mean? Okay. In this case, translate it as make. 私はたけしを日本人にしました。I made Takeshi be Japanese. You had the power to change Takeshi's, identity, I guess. I made ramen delicious. Okay. Hope that makes sense. So again, this is the most important point. You can combine with any verbs, but just make sure this one suru is a little bit different. I mean, this will technically it's a causative, but we'll explain later. But yeah, if you remember this, then you're good. You're all set. And this ground point you can apply to anything. Cleaned. I made a room clean. My room became clean. My cat became big, whatever. Okay, last one. We're almost done. Adjective, noun, no to mean one. Okay, so we have talked about no a lot. If you remember that no is a noun specialist. Oops. Specialist. Okay, this is good to have in your mind. Why? The particle no, right? Noun one, no, noun two equals noun three. The particle no functions to combine the nouns into one noun. Also verb plain plus no would be the ing form of the verb as a noun, right? I like studying. 勉強するのが好きです, right? So these two no are being used to make things noun. So it is noun specialist. Now we have this third one. Noun, no. Adjective, no. Adjective, no. What would these not mean? It's the pronoun one. Now explain. For example, you're at a store and you wanna buy some clothes. You try this black jacket. 黒いジャケット. It's good, but it's not as good. And you try the red one. You see what I said? I said red one. Why? Because I was too lazy or didn't want to be redundant and say red jacket by adding this pronoun one. We can avoid being redundant, or we can be lazy, say use less energy. So this one, I want the expensive one there. I want the Japanese one. I'll buy the Japanese one. Do you have the small one? Do you have the $10 one? Do you have the stupid one? Whatever, that one. Well, important thing to know. This one, what kind of word is it? Like noun, verb, adjective, adverb? What kind of word is one? Noun, right? It's so it might be, and that's why I call it no, it's the noun specialist. It's so good at dealing with nouns. This case, for example, 美味しいのをください. Please give me a delicious one. So with this, 美味しいの is already a noun, right? It looks like wrong or counterintuitive, right? Like we have been using no to connect with other nouns here. Well, this one, we started to learn that, hey, by adding no, it becomes noun. So maybe with this, you started to get used to a word that ends with no, right? So it's just an extension of that. 美味しいのください. Please give me a delicious one. Because no is already a noun, meaning one. If you want to connect with an adjective, きれい. Remember an adjective, how to connect with a noun? We add na, right? So that's why きれいなの, beautiful one. Please give me a beautiful one. If you want to say, hey, please give me the $10 one. 10ドルのをください. The $10 one. 10ドルのください. Good? Yeah, this one too, just practice. It will sink in. Yeah, take some practice. Okay, so that's all the ground points. Took a long time, sorry, but we did cover all the ground points in chapter 10. Hi, let me know if you have any questions and let me know if there's anything you want me to cover and I will do. はい、じゃあまた。バイバイ。